fearless. They don't quite fit into the rooms they enter. Not because they don't want to, but because they were never designed to. It was called fearless. The tortured poets are the ones who feel everything all at once, like thunder rumbling beneath still skin. They speak in metaphors not to be mysterious, but because that's the only way the truth doesn't hurt as much, called fearless. They are the ones with the nervous smiles at parties, the ones who hear music in silence and find heartbreak in headlines. These artists don't shout to be heard. Fearless, they whisper secrets into notebooks and bury emotions between the lines of verses that no one ever really reads the right way. They love too deeply and break too quietly. Most days, they are a little too honest for comfort, a little too intense for casual conversation. People say they're dramatic, sensitive, strange, but they're not. They're fearless. They're just tuned in to a frequency the rest of the world doesn't hear. They carry a storm inside them, but make it look like a song. They're admired from a distance, but rarely invited close. Because proximity means vulnerability, and vulnerability from a poet feels like standing too near a burning page. For the tortured poets, love is never just a feeling, it's a tidal wave. It arrives without warning, crashes into everything, and leaves behind pieces they will spend years turning into verses. Love is the high they chase, and the poison they drink knowingly. It's the muse that pulls them out of the dark and the shadow that drags them back in. They write about it as if it's both war and worship, because to them it is a single glance can become a novel, a passing touch becomes a symphony of longing. They romanticize the silence after a fight, the perfume left behind on a sweater, the way a goodbye hangs longer than the person who said it. They never love halfway. They dive knowing there might be air on the other side. And when love ends, as it often does for hearts that beat too loud, it doesn't just hurt, it echoes. Through every poem, every sleepless night, every unread message, they'll never delete. But still, they go back. Every time, fearless. Not because they forget the pain, but because even pain feels like purpose when you're a poet. Love, to them, fearless, is both the scar and the ink they use to trace it back. Writing isn't just an art for the tortured poets. It's survival. It's the lifeline they cling to when the world spins too fast. When memories turn into lanes and emotions swell like waves against a fragile shore, they don't write for applause or acclaim. They write because if they didn't, the silence inside them would scream. Each word is a thread that stitches the cracks in their chest back together. Every sentence is a confession wrapped in rhythm, a secret laid bare beneath the disguise of rhyme. They spill their souls onto paper because it's the only place they can be fully honest without interruption. Their journals hold the truths they're too afraid to speak aloud. The raw, the ugly, the beautiful chaos. They turn heartbreak into metaphor, not to hide, but to survive it. When the world dismisses their emotions as too much, too dramatic, too intense, they take that pain and sculpt it into verses that cut, comfort, and connect. Writing becomes the mirror they hold up to themselves, a way to make sense of the mess. The blank page doesn't judge, it listens. It absorbs every tear, every scream, every quiet plea masked in beautiful language. The torture books never tell the story exactly as it happened. Not because they want to lie, but because truth wears different clothes in their world. A breakup becomes a battlefield. A whisper becomes a storm. They lace fiction with fact like a melody hiding a heartbreak. Every line they write is coated in glitter, but beneath the sparkle is something sharp. Their art is camouflage, a way to say everything without saying it directly. Fearless. You think they're singing about someone else, but it's always been about them. They master the art of misdirection. A character in a poem might have someone else's name, but the tears on the page belong to them. Fearless. They blur the line between imagination and memory because reality is too heavy to carry without turning it into something softer, something symbolic. They've learned that people are more willing to accept the truth when it's dressed like fiction. It was called Fearless. So they build castles out of metaphors, hide their grief inside love songs, and turn shame into symphonies. They're fearless. Their stories feel universal because they are, but they also come from the most personal places imaginable. They write with a wink, daring you to look deeper. Was called Fearless, to decode what they've disguised as a dream. There's a strange kind of silence that follows the tortured poets, even when they're surrounded by applause. They light up stages, pages, rooms, yet carry a shadow that never quite fades. Their minds are alive with ideas, constantly creating, endlessly feeling, but that very brilliance often becomes a barrier. Fearless, people see the beauty in their work, but rarely ask what it costs to make it. They're adored from afar, but closeness feels rare, almost impossible, because to know them fully means confronting the intensity, the sensitivity, the depth that most are too afraid to touch. They crave connection, but fear it at the same time. Was their thoughts, theirs move faster than conversations can keep up with. They overthink, overworry, overwonder. They write about love like it's the air they breathe, but can't seem to hold on to it for long. Friends might admire them, lovers might chase them, but few stay when the lights go out and the poet is just a person. Flawed, fragile, and full of ghosts. Was called Fearless. There's an H that lingers even in moments of joy. A quiet knowing no matter how many people hear their words. Few will ever truly hear them. They live in metaphors not just to tell stories, fearless, but to survive the solitude that brilliance brings. They aren't tragic by choice, but by nature, wired to feel the full weight of the world and then hand it back in verses that bleed beauty. They live in between lines, fearless, between lovers, between being seen and being misunderstood. But in that space, lonely, burning, honest, they find a kind of magic that can't be taught. Their pain becomes poetry, their chaos becomes clarity, and while the world may never fully understand them, it will always stop to listen when they speak through the silence, because no one turns heartbreak into art quite like they do.